Para pemirsa dan teman-teman sebangsa dan setanah air, kembali bertemu dengan saya, Soegeng Sarjadi, dalam acara forum Soegeng Sarjadi yang merupakan kerjasama Soegeng Sarjadi Syndicate dengan Televisi Republik Indonesia. Para pemirsa, untuk episode ini saya sangat berbangga dan berbahagia sekali karena tamu saya kali ini nanti akan saya perkenalkan, merupakan tamu yang tidak pernah saya duga bahwa beliau ini mau menjawab undangan saya. Sehingga nanti saya akan memakai dua bahasa, bahasa Indonesia dan bahasa Inggris, karena bahasa Inggris sekarang ini sudah menjadi bahasa yang gampang dimengerti. Untuk tema episode ini saya beri judul yang agak kontroversial, The New World Economic Order, China-Indonesia. Sedikit
Indonesia.
Kira-kira begitu. Jadi, tapi saya akan menyapa dulu tamu-tamu terhormat saya. I will use two languages in this episode, since my guest is Madam Ambassador, Her Excellency Ambassador Zhang, and she looks to me, she doesn't look like ambassador, but I'm proud to have her here. So, welcome to my table.
Thank you.
Madam Ambassador.
Thank you.
Duta Besar Cina untuk Indonesia. Yang berikutnya orang tua saya ini yang menemani saya, Profesor Dr. Sukamdani Sahid Gito Sarjono. Sugeng Rawuh, selamat datang. Yang pertama ini ya Mas ya, Ketua Umum Lembaga Kerjasama Ekonomi Sosial dan Budaya Indonesia Cina. Yang berikutnya teman-teman saya yang selalu menemani saya. Yang pertama Bapak Bambang Hadimurti, selamat datang Mas Bambang. Mas Bambang adalah Direktur Utama PT Tempo Intimedia. Bapak Kristianto Wibisono, selamat datang. Direktur Utama Global Nexus Institute. So Madam, he is one of the elite in Tempo magazine, the most influential magazine weekly in Indonesia. So he is
Very well known.
Well known, and Mr. Kristianto has a global nexus, and he's arranged a lot of seminars.
Yes.
And Pak Kamdani, you know who he is.
Okay. Old friends already.
Oh yeah. So
he's also a former founder of Tempo.
And he's also former founder of Tempo. So our young long time before, we used to be journalists, all of us, the three of us. But now, we split and we become, we cannot stop being journalists, whatever we do now. So I will go to Madam Ambassador first. Indonesia and China has been related for so long throughout history, and the relationship has been in so many fields. Number one, culturally, I think we are much better than anybody else. Maybe Egypt, because it goes almost ancient ways. That's before Christ. The Great Wall of China, you build that, and we build Borobudur. In the modern history, I don't think any country can pass this, I would say. I will not mention the country. Number two, surprisingly, we are the largest Muslim country. But you know well that all this wali, this messenger of Islam, has some blood in the body, the blood of being the Chinese, what do you call that, Pamang?
Chinese
descent, yes. And also politically, socially, economically, I think we have so much similarity there. During the time of Sriwijaya, Majapahit, and there is a movie, what is the general?
Zheng He.
Admiral Zheng He.
Yeah.
So now, Madam Ambassador, what do you think in the future, based on that advantage, how do you see Indonesia and China in this modern, if you add together the population China-Indonesia, it will become 1,500,000,000, something like it's so big.
Yes.
And your GDP is now about 6 trillion US dollars. We coming to 1 trillion. So we are, while Europe and America is now having a little bit problem, we are moving ahead like someone with a fast train. What do you think, what we should do, Madam Ambassador, please?
Well, yes, I think first of all, thank you for organizing this today's talk, and I think the issue of relationship and cooperation between China and Indonesia is getting more and more important. I fully agree with you that we have a long history of friendly relations and changes and exchanges, and so our roots actually go together. And today, I think we have come to a new period. I call this a period of rediscovery for China to rediscover Indonesia, and also for Indonesia to rediscover China. I think because we are two big neighbors in Asia, and as you mentioned, we have so much similarities. And in today's world, we see these two countries can really work together. Our economies are mutually complementary. Our cultures are very similar, and you are working for a new democracy, and China is also building a Chinese socialist democracy. So in many ways, I think we can learn from each other, we can help each other, we can develop together. And I'm very optimistic, actually very happy to see that our relations have developed so fast over the past years, especially since 2005, when China and Indonesia have entered a period of strategic partnership. And if we're talking about actually the relations have developed in all areas, if we talk about trade, people are surprised that we actually this year will reach, the overall trade volume will reach 50 billion US dollars. And so this is a big leap forward. But not only in trade. I think trade is only one indicator. Actually, investment, Chinese investment is coming. Actually, right now, many big projects are being discussed, and the Chinese government is encouraging the Chinese businesses to come to Indonesia to invest, to especially to focus on areas that are of great need for Indonesia, like infrastructure, manufacturers, agriculture. But I think for me, it is more important to enhance the people-to-people relationship. And so we are now trying to work in this field to, for example, provide more scholarships to Indonesian young people, to have more exchange programs between academicians and also scholars, and more media exchange programs. And so I think these kind of things are important. So to conclude, I will to say that I'm very optimistic about the future of our relationship, because we feel that this is a win-win situation. Today we're faced with the same task of development for our peoples. And in order to develop, I think China needs Indonesia, and also Indonesia needs China, and together we will make a very strong Asia. Yes.
Sebelumnya para pemirsa, saya mendapat kehormatan tamu orang tua saya ini, Pak Kamdani. Pak Kamdani, Anda waktu tahun-tahun 85 yang Anda lihat kan waktu itu problem ya hubungan kita dengan Cina itu ya. Tapi Bapak dengan keras kepala, tanda petik ya, ini harus terjadi hubungan apa namanya, kerjasama ekonomi sosial budaya Indonesia China, yang mendorong Pak Kamdani apa?
Pertama yang mendorong kepada saya untuk memberanikan diri mengambil inisiatif dan berani untuk mengajak kawan-kawan saya, karena pada waktu itu saya menjadi ketua umum KADI di Indonesia yang periode kedua, dan saya sebagai presiden Kadin ASEAN dan juga Asia Pasifik. Saya mempunyai keyakinan bahwa saya mempunyai posisi yang baik untuk melakukan mengembangkan satu komunikasi dan diplomasi. Itu ada. Nah, untuk ini yang di dalam benak saya lah, pada tahun 1967 ya, hubungan antara Indonesia dan China, hubungan diplomatik adalah tahun 1950. Tapi 1967 itu dibekukan. Dengan beku itu pada tahun 12 ya berarti 18 tahun. Jadi 18 tahun itu ternyata tidak ada orang yang bisa memenuhi persyaratan daripada Presiden Soeharto pada waktu itu. Jadi pada waktu itu persyaratannya di dalam melakukan pendekatan dengan China harus menjaga kehormatan kedua belah pihak. Yang kedua adalah tidak boleh melakukan intervensi kepentingan politik baik kedua pihak. Yang ketiga adalah supaya hubungan antara China dengan Indonesia, baik itu pemulihan hubungan dagang langsung maupun pemulihan hubungan diplomatik, harus saling bermanfaat untuk kedua negara. Itu. Nah, dengan syarat itu kelihatannya dingin, semua tidak ada. Dan malahan pada waktu itu ada, setelah saya beradikan suara-suara yang mengkritik luar biasa. 18 tahun maka saya berani diri, dan secara kebetulan ini adalah termasuk delegasi pertama ya Juli Juli tahun
jadi cair ya
tahun 1945 ini kita ajak. Nah, pada waktu itu ada orang mengatakan ke sana itu nanti apakah ada jaminan bisa pulang kembali ke Indonesia. Jadi berarti rawatnya seperti itu. Oleh karena itu maka saya yakin dengan keyakinan itu maka terus saya lapor kepada 3 kali saya ketemu dengan Presiden Soeharto. Yang pertama kali adalah dikatakan bahwa beliau mengatakan ini yang namanya ABRI masih luka tulang angkatan darat dengan adanya intervensi dari Partai Komunis China. Nah, yang kedua adalah saya maju lagi, orang Islam adalah belum mau karena negara komunis.
Belum mau terima.
Belum mau terima.
Pak Kristianto, ini, I have spoken with Madam Ambassador. After China regain Macau and Hong Kong, all the textbook on politics, on ideology, or economic system is topsy-turvy. There is no theory anymore. Who will build better? Communism, she said today, our democracy and her socialist democracy. I still say, what is that? My answer, what is that? As long as, according to Karl Marx, each according to his need. And on American style, they say the pursuit of happiness. What's the big deal about that? I think both can serve the people. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think there is now a convergence between the so-called the right and the left. Because if you talk about the right, usually you mean that the state must not interfere, where the left wants the state to interfere. But actually, we have to choose the middle way, let the market grow. Because I think Deng Xiaoping said that we have tried Marxism for 30 years and we failed. So I return to the market. Because the market is older than Marx. Before Marx born, there is already market.
That's already market.
Okay, that's market. And then, but if the market is becoming wide, like during the 1929 depression, the state must interfere. That's not how New Deal come,
the New Deal.
Keynesian, and then the state will interfere because the market is failed. So if there is market failure, you have to the state must interfere. But the state must not interfere too strong that you kill your own market. It's like the case of the Soviet Union and China before the Deng Xiaoping reform. So we are now moving about what we call the middle way. Then you have the state intervention, but not killing the market. That's actually we move to that direction. Whether it's China or even the United States now, they have to use state to interfere. Even nationalize General Motors. They have nationalized General Motors at the time last year. So I think in the next in the future, the role of China and Indonesia is that we Asia, whether we like it or not, will be the engine of growth for the next decade maybe. So now what we have to improve is the relation within China and Indonesia and ASEAN, because I think, Madam Chang, I read about 2 documents, Master Plan of ASEAN Connectivity and Comprehensive ASEAN Development Plan. This is by the ADB and the ASEAN. There are so many projects, but most of them are in the so-called the Indochina, like between Myanmar, Vietnam, and Cambodia. But it's rather sparse for Indonesia. Maybe because Indonesia is considered one country in the context of ASEAN. So I think what we want to work together is that if China can invest more in the infrastructure development of the region and Indonesia, that will be better and win-win solution. You can get better return than the U.S. Treasury bond.
Please respond to that.
Well, yes, I think actually just now I think you have touched upon 2 things. One, you talked about democracy. I just wanted to mention add one thing. That is actually, I think just 2 weeks ago, the Bali Democracy Forum was held. Actually, the attendance for that forum was very, very good, and there is more growing interest in the Bali Democracy Forum. I think the Indonesian President Bapak SBY President has mentioned very well that actually democracy has many forms, and also that it's something that all countries should share and learn from each other. I think so that's why people are very interested in coming to the Bali Democracy Forum to discuss their way of democracy or government and to share experience. Well, I once have at one of these seminars I talked about the Chinese way or the other countries' ways. I said, well, we have to see, as you mentioned, what is the ultimate goal. I think for us, the ultimate goal is to bring a better life for the people. But how do you achieve this goal? It really depends on the specific circumstances of each country. So, yeah, one thing that I often recite is that, for example, it's like eating. We Asians, we enjoy eating. We eat with chopsticks, while maybe Westerners eat with knife and fork. And however, you cannot say that eating by using knife and fork is better way than chopsticks. But I think as long as that we can get the food into the mouth, and then we enjoy the food. I think that is the most important thing. So I think, on the democracy, I think each country has to develop itself, develop the system according to its own circumstances and conditions. And secondly, concerning Baba Cristiano's question concerning the investment from China. I think definitely the Chinese investment is coming toward this way. Actually, China and ASEAN relations and cooperation are developing very, very fast. Actually, if you look at the last 10 years, there has been a huge increase of investment from China. And secondly, I think the Chinese businesses and companies are very interested in coming to Indonesia. But one thing I wish to mention is that I think for Indonesia here, it is important to have the good environment to attract foreign investment. I think this is an issue that the government is already working very hard on. I see a lot of improvement, but that is something, because today for China, it is in a market economy, so the investment will come and go according to the market. That's right. So actually, in a way that Indonesia is not a simple issue between Indonesia and China. It's actually an issue between Indonesia, maybe other members of ASEAN or other members of Asia. So if you can create the good environment and conditions to welcome and to attract the Chinese investment, I think that will help a lot. But as far as the government policy is concerned, we give priority to ASEAN countries and also to Indonesia.
Can you specify on that?
Yes, well, for example, our Premier Wen Jiabao was in Bali last month, and he mentioned that he met with Indonesian president. They had very, very productive talks, and my Premier mentioned that in encouraging investment into Indonesia, we would like to first support your master plan of economic development, the 6 corridors, and we will support especially the building of infrastructure and also in the area of manufacturers, agriculture, fishery, these areas. And even during the Bali East Asia Summit, several big projects were signed, and with strong support from our banks.
Very good.
Yes.
So the growth, the economic growth in China is very phenomenal. Suddenly, within almost the range of time, it's almost the same as us, in 20 years. During Pak Harto time, it's about 25 years, and during the Deng Xiaoping, it's almost about that range of time. And they deal with 1-point-something billion people. We deal with over 200 something, and we have probably more richness in a lot of things, and the soil is so good, and the people. But she is mentioned now about the some hurdle in the market on if you want to invest, to attract the investment. Maybe she's not very blunt on that, but how can do you think you can specify on that?
Yeah, I can imagine being if I'm a Chinese businessman used to deal in Chinese business environments, it would be very difficult to face in Indonesia, because, for instance, just land clearing is one of the big issues. Also, clarity about who actually allowed to give the permissions, what's this and that. This is so many uncertainties. But I think businessmen are good businessmen. They are, if they see opportunity, even things are very bad, they will always find a way. That's why one is a good businessman. But I would actually like more to comment on what Madam Ambassador said, Indonesia and Chinese rediscovering each other. And I think this is a very good strategic thinking, because if you look at the history of Indonesia, the first time Indonesia has a kingdom that is a world-class kingdom with world-class prosperity at that time was when we had the Sriwijaya in the 6th century, 7th century maybe. And it happened because at that time China and India, which at that time maybe owned more than half of the world GDP, suddenly found a way to trade more efficiently is through the sea. And because they trade through the sea, they have to stop by in the southern Sumatra, because they have to replenish their boats with waters and everything. So southern Sumatra become a good trading post of 2 world-class economy. Yeah? So it grow into a very big world-class kingdom called Sriwijaya. They've been able to build a world-class building like Borobudur at that time. And at the same time, later on during the Majapahit time, it's also because China and India was 2 huge economies trading each other, not only trading in goods, but also in culture, science. So that's why during the Sriwijaya, because the culture that controlled the whole thing was Buddhist, we were all Buddhists. And during Majapahit, because they have changed into Hindus, we are all Hindus, without any war or something, but because through exchange of cultures. So for Indonesia, if we want to continue the 3rd time, Indonesia become a world-class country again, then we look, this is the chance, because India and China are now also growing. They are going to catch up their old more than half of world GDP, because they used to be there. So this is the time for us to race with them. That's why for us, now the big challenge for Indonesia is we should play a part in making sure that China and India has a good relationship. And this is not easy, because recently, India is suspicious of China. They built a new army, 150,000 soldiers, new soldiers, to be put in the border of China and India, because they were worried. This is not a good thing for all of us. We have to play our part to convince that China and India, you're huge two economies, no need to fight. Why don't we have so many poor people? It's better to fight against poverty, not to fight against each other, because all of the countries want to fight poverty, want to make our people rich. This is very important for Indonesia to play a strategic part in making sure that China and India peaceful with each other, trading so ferociously with each other, and because they complement each other. Chinese is a good manufacturing of everything, but on the software side, India can do that because they are English speaking and they are good at this, and Indonesia can play a part. And India, long time democracy, Chinese is just a socialist country, but Indonesia is former authoritarian now and a democracy, so we can be a good bridge. That should be the role of Indonesia, is a very good bridge for China and India, because then you can put a toll bridge, both will pay the toll, and will become very prosperous.
You have to respond on that, but before you respond, this is why then I like you to meet with all the journalists. This is not government people. It's more open, and it brings you challenge. Okay, you see what he means is, while the world is in jeopardy now, why not we become closer together, rediscover ourselves, and make ourselves to be the balance of the old dominant balance in the world, more deterrent for the better quality of life for the people. Your response?
Yes, well, I think Baba Bongbong has raised a very interesting point. I think, definitely, I think Indonesia can play a very important role in connecting all the countries together. I think Indonesia is quite, in a quite a very favorable position to be, in a way, also center of many important countries and points of interest. But I think not only Indonesia can play a very important role of the bridge, but I think Indonesia as a country itself is very, very important because, as you mentioned at the beginning, that it is actually the fourth largest country as far as population is concerned, and it also is a country of cultural and religious diversity, and also with the people coming from a long civilization, and also with very rich natural resources. And so I think with all these basic points, and also especially these days, it's developing quite fast, and it has the potential of becoming one of the big economic powers of the world. I think because of all these factors, Indonesia itself is very, very important, and so in that aspect, we feel that we have to further strengthen the relations with Indonesia, not only just bilaterally, but also maybe through the ASEAN-China channel. So that's why we pay a lot of attention to the development of ASEAN-China 10+1, 10+3, and also 10+6, and also with the East Asia together. So I think this is important, especially at this time of the day that the focus of the world is more tilted toward East Asia and this part of the world. We have to really strengthen our efforts at making this ASEAN Plus a success. Yes.
Pak Ramdhani, sebentar ya, Soegeng. Seberapa besar sekarang para pengusaha kita dengan pengusaha Cina ini hubungannya bagus, tradingnya baik, volumenya berapa kira-kira, dan bisa melanjutkan seberapa besar lagi nanti?
Saya berpikir mulai daripada tanggal dan tahun ini. Pertama adalah pada kita menandatangani pemulihan hubungan dagang langsung Indo-China tanggal 5 Juli tahun 1985. Perdagangan kita pada waktu itu dapat dikatakan bukannya baik tapi sangat tidak baik. Tapi setelah kita 5 tahun kita bina, maka terus ada pemulihan hubungan diplomatik tanggal 8 Agustus tahun 90, 5 tahun kemudian. Jadi berarti ini perdagangan yang tadi hanya 230 juta US dollar pada tahun 1985, itu pada akhir tahun 1990 itu sudah mencapai 1,4 miliar. Nah, jadi perkembangannya seperti itu. Jadi memang perdagangan antara Indonesia dan China itu memang kuat. Nah, selanjutnya sampai sekarang saya sangat berterima kasih melihat walaupun saya tidak diundang baik mengenai pemulihan hubungan diplomatik, walaupun saya itu kan terkenal Perdana Menteri ke Bali dan sebagainya itu. Bukan pemerintah diundang saya tidak.
He's not invited. He was not invited.
Mungkin saya papanya di belakang layar.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
nah, untuk itu maka setelah saya merasa berbahagia pada peringatan Konferensi Asia Afrika pada tahun 2005, di situ ada penandatangan yang kerjasama partnership yang namanya adalah hubungan antara Indonesia dan China. Itulah kita menandatangani yang namanya adalah di hubungan yang merupakan adalah sebagai strategic partnership. Nah, strategic partnership itu adalah terjadi pada bulan April tahun 2005. 2000. Jadi berarti kenyataannya adalah seperti itu antara perdagangan antara Indonesia dan China, dan juga kepentingan daripada China terhadap Indonesia, dan juga kepentingan China terhadap Indonesia terhadap China, untuk supaya bisa membantu pada waktu itu bantuan yang dikatakan untuk bangunan atau proyek-proyek yang namanya infrastruktur.
Okay. Alright. Mbak Chris, kita agak ke lain isu ya. I have suggested to Madam Ambassador, I haven't seen on exchange directly scholars, intellectual between Indonesia and China. Why don't we do that? You know why? Because like I say, not only economic things that is moving in or changing in the world, but also on political science, on philosophy, and so many things, on human rights, for example. Why don't we, Indonesian intellectual and Chinese intellectual, have their own ideas, non-governmental, so we can be of good to our own government, and maybe we can find some middle of the road. We don't talk anymore. You know why this India and China coming to that? It's because there is still some latent ideology things in the head. Then this kind of thing, only can be. Go ahead.
Follow the experience of Pak Sukamdani. The ASEAN and the other organizations are still active only at the bureaucratic level, bureaucratic and G2G. Right. So what we have to fight is to improve this people-to-people relation, informal civil society, journalists. Because, Madam Chang, I was the only Indonesian to attend the BRICS summit, where the South Africa was invited in last April in Sanya, Hainan. Yeah. So people are asking why Indonesia is not invited to BRICS. So maybe you could explain that. But I think the Indonesian position is trying to be a good mediator, because what we see in the G20 is you have a G7, you have the BRICS, and you have the Independent 7. I think Pak Isbewa is, as you know, that he is an expert in balancing of power. So that's the G20 must have a solid and ultimately must come to consensus. But we have like two poles, the BRICS and the the G7, like when during the APEC, President SBY also do not want to accept this TPP, you know, because TPP is also another set of make a dichotomy between the member of the TPP and not. So, what is your opinion about that situation, especially about the BRICS and Indonesia?
Go ahead.
Well, I think it's not really for me to talk about Indonesia's position regarding to the BRICS or any other issues. But I think as far as we can see, that I think all the different groupings are important. But what really matters is that I think today on all these issues, whether it's economic, financial, the current debt problem, or the relaunching of the Doha round, or concerning APEC or ASEAN, I think we need more exchanges of views. Whether you are formerly the BRIC or not BRIC or in this or that, I think it doesn't matter. I think the most important thing is that we must be on constant exchanges of views. Actually, Indonesia and China are doing this. I give you an example. Every year before the G20 summit, I think there is always bilateral consultations between Chinese Sherpa and the Indonesian Sherpa, and also on the sideline of the G20 or APEC, we always meet, whether at the ministerial level, senior official, Sherpa level. I think the most important thing is that we must discuss and share our analysis and also compare our positions. But I must say that on most of the issues that are concerning the G20 or the APEC or the within ASEAN-China relationship, we very much see eye to eye. I think Indonesia and China, we have similar views on most of these issues. So actually, I think that is also very important that we exchange our views, for these meetings, so that we have some, joint or common position to go to these meetings and to have a wider discussion.
Yeah, I think we can agree to this future perspective of this world under the new Pax Consortium. The G20 is a consortium which represents all the power of the world. We don't want the Pax Britannica, we don't want Pax Americana, we don't want Pax Soviética or even Pax Senica, but what we need is Pax Consortium, a consortium of multi-power countries. Yes. I think we have to strive to that direction.
Yeah,
like the WTO. If you already have the WTO, you don't need to have the regional and then we discriminate against other. Actually, we have to strive that Doha round is okay. That if we go to that, you cannot discriminate against other. You have to follow the most favored nation clause.
Yeah.
And
so,
also,
before we answer, you know what I see? Suddenly the deterrent power in geopolitics is no more on the ordnance, on the hardware. It's now becoming on the economic things, When I calculate about our domestic product, the Chinese about on 2010 is about 6.510 trillion US dollars, while we are coming to 1 trillion. But when you combine this with ASEAN, I think it will be about the size of American GDP, but 15 or 14.7 something that trillion. Suddenly, this emporium, I will not mention the country, suddenly there is no more what they call strength.
Hegemony, no hegemony.
No, there is no hegemony anymore. It's not based on strength, on ordnance, on weaponry, but rather on economy, and this is much better. But sometime in the future, still it can be used even worse than atomic bomb. If you give sanction to a country, for example. Pak Bambang, this is an issue that I have mentioned to Madam Zhang. The intellectual, the people to people, has to come together and give suggestion, advice to our elite, whatever system of a country. Like she said just now, you can eat with chopstick, and Indonesia eat better with the hand. As long as the food comes to our stomach, who cares?
Yes.
See what I mean?
Yeah, but we have also to be careful that the peaceful intellectual or elite can get together sooner than the nationalistic, militaristic elite. Because, you know, if any countries that has a big advance in economy, automatically will also increase the size of its military. Japan is anomaly because Japan was pushed by the American not to, you know, to control their military. But any normal country, if the size of your economy growing, the size of your military power will also grow.
All right.
And if you don't have a good communication, this can be perceived as a threat to others. For instance, in the case of China, the South China Sea is now a very sensitive issue. We have to have a lot of talk in order, as Prime Minister Churchill say, it's better to jaw than to war. So we have to increase our you know, engagement in peaceful engagement to talk about the issue of South China Sea before it become into a militaristic issue, because that would be bad for everybody. And this is a serious issue because the Chinese constitutions actually consider a large part of South China Sea as a territorial China. It's fortunate that the Chinese government is not very aggressive on this, but time might change if we don't keep talking and keep creating understanding about this issue. It can become not good for all of us.
All right.
So this is an issue. Actually, I would like to hear Madam Chang's opinion on this. How will we you know, maintain this issue of South China Sea so it will not create problem for everybody?
Well, actually, I think you have brought a very important point. Actually, China is at the, you know, on the way to further development. And so actually for the Chinese government, also for the Chinese people, we are very conscious of the fact that in order to develop, you need a good external environment. So actually for the Chinese government as well as for the people as a whole, actually the last thing that we wanted to do is to go into war. And we know what a war or a military conflict, armed conflict can bring about. So for us, a peaceful environment, you know, within China, with, you know, with you know, neighbors, this is most the precondition for development, not only for China, but for all the countries in this world. So our policy is to have a peaceful environment, and China has done its utmost to maintain the peace and stability in this region. So regarding South China Sea, this is our basic point of departure, that, you know, we are working together with ASEAN countries to make sure that there is no major problem in this area. And but we have said, you know, many times that whatever disputes relating to you know, territorial issues, it has to be discussed and negotiated between the countries concerned. But we understand that there is a security concern for all the members of this region. So we have discussed this with ASEAN countries, and we have come to some conclusions. And so I think, you know, we have to show to others that between ASEAN countries and China, we can resolve whatever disputes we have. But the most important thing that everyone agrees is that we have to maintain the peace and stability, and also take the opportunity that today it provides for us to develop together.
Good point.
Yeah.
I think, don't worry, his theory might work on Indonesia too. When we, in 5 years and 10 years, we develop and grow more, then he says, it usually goes on military things, on budget on military. We will see. So again, maybe Indonesia will experience the same. Yeah, and then
every normal country.
So I think the best way, like what she says, though, keep talking, sit on the table, put everything on the table, and then. But how do you see the Indonesian potential on bringing these people on the table?
Well, I think, you know, Indonesia is a major player and a major country within ASEAN. grouping. So I think Indonesia has an important role. And if we look at Indonesia working as the president or the chairman of ASEAN this year, we see that Indonesia has already done quite a lot in getting everybody's position together, and to make sure that the good relations between China, ASEAN, and among all the countries will maintain. Because I think today, especially when we see there are serious problems in other parts of the world, we have to make sure that our region is still stable, developing, and having a good relationship.
And that's why China need to explain, because China, for instance, is building the second aircraft carrier now. An aircraft carrier is not a defensive military hardware. It is a tool to project power outside. It could be offensive, but it could be just to protect your line of supply. But it has to be explained so people don't misunderstand. Don't get
me. Make one point. I think you're right in saying that. I think if there are no other carriers around us, there's no need to produce.
I was about to say that.
Yes.
So look at from another angle. Okay. The world needs is what we call balance of power. It's always like that. But now, what do you think about, this is so funny. I have talked to Madam Zheng today. Can we, Indonesia, Russia, China, play the role in closing the gap in Middle East, for example? What happened in Iran?
I read the book about this written by French diplomats, Dominique Moïse. The title is The Geopolitics of Emotion. And in this book, he said that the West and the Middle East are confronting each other. That's the derivative of Huntington theory. And the interesting thing is that he said that as ASEAN can play a role to become a mediator and peace honest broker in the Middle East situation. And I think if China and Indonesia can work together about that, perhaps if the quartet has failed, United States, European Union, United and Russia, then maybe China and Indonesia can play the role in that. That will be a breakthrough, if that can be suggested.
Can be, yeah. All right. Pak Kamdhani, harapan Bapak ke depan itu kita rakyat dengan rakyat ya, pengusaha dengan pengusaha gitu, masih bisa mempertahankan hubungan yang makin baik dengan Cina itu. Kira-kira begitu harapan Pak?
Ya, harapan saya adalah bahwa sekarang ini setelah kita berjalan hubungan Indonesia China mengenai masalah ekonomi, sosial, budaya berjalan, tapi justru kita kembangkan mulai tahun 2006 itulah kita prakarya bersama antara negara-negara ASEAN dengan China. Jadi sekarang itulah kita bukan hanya bilateral, tapi kita adalah multi-regional antara 10 negara ASEAN dengan China. Jadi oleh karena itu kita menganggap pemerintah ada mempunyai kerjasama ASEAN China dan juga ada bilateral antara Indonesia China, tapi kita di ASEAN dari pihak swasta. Ini adalah mengikuti dari di sini adalah kita kembangkan antar 10 negara ASEAN itu ekonomi, sektor ekonomi adalah tanggung jawab China, budaya itu Indonesia, terus mengenai olahraga itu Malaysia, mengenai pendidikan Singapura, dan kesehatan itu Thailand. Jadi ini berjalan dengan baik dan kita sudah mengadakan pertemuan yang namanya multi regional ini sudah berjalan 6 kali sejak tahun 2006. Jadi berarti kita di dalam pemikiran kita kelihatannya diharapkan dan kalau di dalam melakukan lobby secara resmi itu ada hambatan-hambatan, tapi melalui organisasi swasta seperti ini akan bisa Nah, kenyataannya sudah kita kan waktu ribut-ribut mengenai masalah ekspor ikan ke China ditolak, itu yang maju kan lembaga Indo-China. Nah, ini perkara bisa diterima dan jadi tapi ini dalam hal ini yang mengerti katanya hanya sektoral, yang mengerti adalah Menteri Perdagangan atau Menteri Perindustrian, tapi dari pemerintah secara keseluruhan ini kelihatannya lah peran-peran daripada yang diperankan oleh organisasi swasta kurang bisa dimengerti.
Alright, this is going to be your last statement, Madam Ambassador. If I calculate the total inhabitant, Russia, India, China, and ASEAN, it will come to about 3 billion. That's about half of the population. So I am a little bit different from him. I don't think we should use aircraft carrier no more, even if you want to build 5, 10, even if Indonesia able to do that. That is what they all say in timing. Cephas pasum parabellum. That is, if you want peace, you have to prepare for war. But that is only for prevention if there is. But what you want is peace, actually. So, Madam Ambassador, let's do this. Let's keep this. We prepare for any art, any whatever you call war. But the most important is, if you want to look for peace, let's look for peace, but not making war. But geopolitically, it has to be like that, you know. Today, you and Brazil has shown the truthful of your nation heart. Where you look something that is wrong on Iran, for example, you speak out. I am a journalist, I say to the nation too, hey, come on, let's do the same. But I'm not going to talk about this with you. You are an ambassador, so it might be a little bit sensitive on that. But please, your closing remark, Madam Ambassador.
Yes, I fully agree with you. I think we, developing countries and also especially China, ASEAN, and Indonesia, we must work together. I think peace and the common development of this region are very, very important for us. And in order to further strengthen our relationship, I think we must proceed from more better understanding between each other, and also to further strengthen the friendship between our countries, which has been there for so long, and now we have to again strengthen this relationship. And then in this regard, I hope all the media organizations, journalists can also contribute very much to this.
Yeah, I think I'm back to my historical perspective. I think for Indonesia, now is the time, if we want Indonesia to become a world-class country, when China and India again racing to rediscover its old glory, economically speaking, then we should make sure, use whatever mean we can to make sure that China and India and other countries in the region work closely in peace, trade each other vigorously, so everybody can prosper, and actually just stage a war with one objective: war against poverty, not against other country.
I think we have to return to the so-called Bandung spirit, 1945, when we are all together, the Asian, African nation, and then we become the inspiration for that war against poverty. So this in the 21st century, we don't want hegemony from any superpower. No more superpower. The superpower are we are all superpowers. The multicultural countries, the multi-power like the G20. The G20. Yeah.
At long last, it's a pity because she is going in a short time, moving from here to the Philippines.
No, I'm moving back to Beijing.
To Beijing.
Yeah.
But just remember my word today. Planet Earth is the only one that we have to live. So let's take care of this. Para pemirsa, moga-moga episode ini bisa membawa manfaat buat kita semua, terutama bagi kita semua bangsa Indonesia. Kita sudah mendengar Duta Besar Cina untuk Indonesia menyampaikan pikiran-pikirannya yang sangat brilian. Moga-moga ini bisa menjadi pemecut kemajuan China bisa kita kejar, sehingga bisa menemukan kejayaan Indonesia seperti yang pernah kita dialami oleh orang tua atau nenek moyang kita. Esok hari kita masih akan melihat matahari terbit dari ufuk timur dan tenggelam di ufuk barat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah. Well,